Hey guys, Sue's here with Sue's and the crew. Welcome back for another What's for Dinner keto meal recipe ideas video. This week we're doing 4 new meals, some cabbage rolls, some sausage rolls, some chicken, and some keto coleslaw. So make sure you stick around to see what we cooked. And if you're new to our channel, think about hitting that subscribe button and that notification bell so you don't miss our weekly Sunday series.
I wanna catch the wave.
So to start with, we made these cabbage rolls. This was actually a recipe from Fit Slow Cooker Queen. I'll link it down below. For these, you just take a pound of ground meat, some cauliflower rice, some minced or diced onion, a can of diced tomatoes, a seasoning blend, and some oregano and cabbage leaves. To prep our cabbage leaves, I just microwaved them for 30 seconds till they get a little wilty. You'll see later it makes it easier to roll them. Then you're just going to take the 2 cups of cauliflower rice and the onion and add it to your ground meat and mix it. I just did a small onion. And then you're going to take 2 teaspoons of Italian seasoning. I used that. You could just use oregano. 1.5 teaspoons of salt and 2 minced garlic cloves. Just mix it all together. I took a portion of the canned tomatoes and put them in the bottom of a crock pot. And then I'm just going to take my meat mixture and start stuffing my cabbage leaves. I've never made these before. It was a little intimidating, but I promise it was so easy once you got started because it doesn't really matter how you fold them. You're just going to stuff them, fold them, and place them in your crock pot with the seam side down. And then once it cooks, miraculously, they stayed together. I was actually really surprised at how easy this was. Like I say, it was my first attempt. So you're just going to continue until you have all of your meat mixture rolled up, and I just show you a couple here, but I mean for some of them I just made the tiniest rolls, and I had like a little handful of meat left over at the end, and I literally just crammed it in the crock pot in between the other cabbage rolls, and this is what it looks like. You can see where I have it crammed in there. Now you top it with the rest of your tomatoes that were left over, and I just put the lid on it and turned it to low, and I cooked mine for about 6 to 8 hours, but you could do it on high for 4. And here is the finished product, and here it is all plated up. This was absolutely delicious and is definitely a keeper. I will be making this recipe again. This was also even kid friendly. Up next, I made these Fathead dough sausage rolls with some Parmesan cheese and crusted green bean fries, and I just served it up with some low carb marinara. So to start with, preheated my oven to 350 and got my husband to do this part. We just took some Italian sausage and took the casings off of it. This was like a pound or 2. I think it was like 6 links of Italian sausage. You could really use whatever you like. This recipe is from Ditch the Carbs. I'll link it down below. I actually followed this recipe exactly. I usually change it up. After you take the casings off, you just bake those. I lie. Sorry guys, I didn't follow it exactly because I cooked them differently. I cooked those for 15 minutes to make sure they were more done. Then in a bowl, you're going to get started with your Fathead dough. It's just the same recipe over and over for this. 3/4 a cup of almond flour and a cup and 3/4 of mozzarella cheese. Mix it up, add 2 tablespoons of cream cheese, pop it in the microwave for a minute. After it comes out, mix it again, and then pop it back in the microwave for another 30 seconds. And then the last go around, I just mix mine until it's mostly all incorporated, and then you're going to go ahead and add 1 large egg to that. And then I also added a teaspoon of minced onion to that. And then you just keep mixing it until it's all incorporated into a big dough ball. Now you're going to flip it out onto parchment paper, top it with another slice of parchment, and then you're just going to want to roll it out kind of thin into a rectangular shape. It really doesn't matter how well you do this because we're just going to trim it and re-roll a second part of it. And about the time I got done with this, my sausage was almost ready, so I went ahead and started working on mixing up the stuff for my green beans. So put an egg and a tablespoon of water in a shallow dish. And then I put about half a cup of Parmesan and half a teaspoon of garlic powder in another shallow dish. A little bit of salt and pepper. And then took my fork and went ahead and mixed that up really well. I didn't want to like wet my fork before I stuck it in this, is why I switched it out. After I get that mixed up, I'm just going to stick it to the side and go ahead and start whisking just with the fork my egg and water. And about that time, my sausage is done. I'm just going to put it on a plate and stick it to the side so it can cool a little so I can handle it with my hands, and go ahead and keep working on my green bean sides. So I took another pan with parchment, preheated my oven to 400, and I'm just going to dip some green beans in the egg mixture and then in the parm. I used frozen green beans for this that I just thawed out just because I decided the last minute to make these. Next time I surely will use fresh green beans because that would actually make them better and more crisp. But I just like to work with what I have on hand. I did switch to using a fork because if you use your fingers, inevitably the Parmesan cheese and egg mixture just starts building up and it's kind of gross, and this was just more efficient. After you get them lined up, I actually baked these for 15 minutes. And while those were cooking, I started on my sausage. So I just sliced the dough off to get a straight edge, lined sausage on it at the edge, and then sliced again lengthwise down. And then you're just going to use the parchment paper to roll this, kind of like you would sushi. And then just pat it and close it up on the ends, and then sit it back on your pan with the parchment paper that you previously cooked your sausages on. After you do all of these, just spray them with a little bit of olive oil or whatever kind of, you could brush it. I was just lazy. I sprinkled them with some more minced onion, took my green beans out, bumped the oven up to 425 and put these in to bake. It said to bake them for 12 to 15 minutes. I did mine for 20 so I could get that nice brown color on them. And then here it goes plated up. I just cut the sausage dog in half and got some low carb marinara to dip both the sausage dog and the green bean fries in. This was absolutely delicious, and my toddler ate it up as well. Next up, I made a baked mustard lime chicken. This is from Alana's Pantry. I did not follow her recipe very well, but I will link it down below anyway because it was the inspiration for it. This was quite spicy. If you make this for kids, I would recommend taking a piece of chicken and sitting it to the side and just baking it with a little salt and pepper. So to get started, I made a marinade. I added some lime juice, cilantro. She called for fresh. I just used dried, and I didn't put near as much. Some Dijon mustard, some olive oil. Again, I just kind of eyeballed everything, but the specific recipe is down below. About a tablespoon of chili powder, some sea salt, and some black ground pepper. And then I take this old beaten up whisk that I've probably had for 20 years, ever since I had my first apartment, and used it to mix it up. A, because I'm nostalgic, and two, because it actually still works really, really well. After you get done whisking up your marinade, you can just take your chicken. I used chicken breast that I had previously thawed out, and I just put them in this little baking dish and poured the marinade over the top of them. I just let this marinate for an hour. You could do longer. Obviously, the longer you let it marinate, the better it's probably gonna taste, but I didn't have time for all that. After I got done marinating, I popped it in to the oven at 350. I cooked mine for 45 minutes because A, I don't trust undercooked chicken, and B, I didn't let it preheat all the way before I put the chicken in. And here's the finished product, and here it is plated up with some steamed broccoli in the microwave. This was absolutely delicious, but like I said, it's a bit on the spicy side. For our final meal of the week, we made a keto coleslaw, and I actually made this so that I could use up the rest of the cabbage from what I used at the beginning of the week. And the recipe by Kendra Holly, because she is so awesome over at Peace, Love, and Low Carb, called for using coleslaw mix, but I was a little bit of a glutton and decided to make my own. I don't recommend that. So I took a pound of hamburger meat, started browning it, and then I added taco spices to it. Now, I just added what I normally make for my tacos, which is just free-handed salt, pepper, onion powder, garlic powder, cumin, a whole bunch of cumin, some chili powder, and some oregano. But if you want to make a very specific taco seasoning, then she does have a recipe linked. And again, all of this will be linked down below in the description box. I added all of that and just kept mixing it up and letting all of my hamburger meat brown. And as it was browning, I got started on that arduous task of shredding the cabbage. I don't think I will ever do that again. I think I will definitely buy the pre-made cabbage coleslaw mix or whatever that you can just get in a bag, which is what Kendra Holly actually recommended, but I didn't listen. So once I accomplished shredding all of this, and cleanup was no joke, guys. I went ahead and added it to my browned meat mixture. Stirred it up a little bit, and then I went ahead and put a lid on this so that the steam would help the cabbage go ahead and soften up and cook down. After that had incorporated a little, I went ahead and added a can of mild rotel, which is just tomatoes and green chilies mixed together. And I dumped the whole thing in with the liquid and all, and that just, of course, the additional liquid just helped it steam down some more. And you just continue cooking it until it's all wilted together and incorporated, and however you like it for however long that is. After I got done letting it simmer, I went ahead and plated it up. She adds some other things to hers that I left out, like black olives, but I just plated mine and topped it with some holy guacamole, some sour cream, and some jalapenos. I had a little bit of green onion in the fridge I wanted to use up, so I chopped that up and sprinkled it on there as well. And this was an absolutely delicious dish, and I didn't think it was too spicy for my toddler. She seemed to enjoy it. Of course, I didn't give her any jalapenos. So that's it, guys. That is our What's for Dinner Meals this week. If you liked this video, please come back next Sunday for another one, and you can be alerted when we post that by subscribing to our channel and hitting that notification bell. We also post DIYs, day in the lives, and just lifestyle videos in general. So we look forward to having you stick around and join us. And until next week, we'll see you later, guys. Bye.